For more than half a century, he had been one of the safest drivers on the road. He earned his license at 17 and spent the next 55 years behind the wheel without causing a single accident. No speeding tickets, no reckless driving citations, no insurance claims. His record was exactly what every driver hopes for. So when his license was due for renewal, he expected the process to be routine. Like every renewal before, he opened his laptop, logged into his state's DMV website, filled out the online application, and clicked Submit. Instead of a confirmation, a message appeared that stopped him cold. Online renewal is no longer available. You must renew your license in person. Confused, he drove to his local DMV the following morning. After waiting in line for nearly 2 hours, he finally reached the counter. That's when everything changed. The clerk looked at his record and calmly explained that his driver's license had expired 3 weeks earlier. For 21 consecutive days, he had been driving illegally without realizing it. Worse yet, because his license had lapsed, his insurance company could have denied coverage if he had been involved in an accident during that period. One unexpected crash, one distracted driver running a red light, one icy intersection, and he could have been personally responsible for tens of thousands of dollars in damages. Not because he drove recklessly, not because he broke traffic laws, simply because he didn't realize the renewal rules had changed. Unfortunately, his story isn't unique. Millions of older Americans are in a similar position. If you're over the age of 70, or you have a parent, grandparent, friend, or neighbor who is, this report deserves your attention. Across the country, states are changing the way older drivers renew their licenses. Some no longer allow online renewal after a certain age. Others now require in-person vision exams. Several have shortened license renewal periods from 8 years to as little as 3 or even 1 year for certain drivers. The problem is that these changes don't happen uniformly. Every state follows its own rules. Many people assume that because they've renewed the same way for decades, the next renewal will be no different. That assumption is exactly what gets people into trouble. This isn't about scaring older drivers, it's about preventing an avoidable mistake. Losing track of your renewal date doesn't just create paperwork, it can affect your driver's license, your insurance coverage, your finances, and perhaps most importantly, your independence. Before we go any further, let me explain why this matters now. This channel focuses on major government updates that affect everyday Americans, changes involving retirement, Social Security, Medicare, banking, taxes, and transportation. The goal isn't to create fear. It's to make sure you hear about important changes before they become expensive surprises. If that's the kind of information you value, consider subscribing and turning on notifications. Now, let's talk about what's actually changing. Contrary to what many people believe, there is no federal law that automatically takes away your driver's license when you turn 70. That's one of the biggest misconceptions circulating online. Driver licensing has always been handled primarily by individual states. However, federal transportation agencies have recently encouraged states to strengthen renewal procedures for older drivers as America's senior population continues to grow. Today, more than 67 million Americans are age 65 or older, and more older adults are driving than at any point in U.S. history. At the same time, age naturally brings changes that can affect driving. Reaction times may slow. Night vision may decline. Peripheral vision can narrow. Certain medical conditions may affect judgment or awareness behind the wheel. None of this means older adults are unsafe drivers. In fact, many have decades more experience than younger motorists. But states are increasingly trying to balance two important goals: protecting public safety, while preserving the independence that millions of seniors rely on every day. That's why renewal requirements have become more rigorous in many parts of the country. Depending on where you live, renewing your license may now involve an in-person visit, a vision screening, shorter renewal periods, or additional medical documentation. And here's the important part. these rules aren't identical from state to state. A requirement in California may not exist in Texas. Florida's rules are different from Illinois. North Carolina follows its own timeline. And if you don't know what your own state requires, you could easily assume you're compliant when you're not. That's where most problems begin. In the next section, we'll break down the 3 biggest traps catching older drivers by surprise and explain exactly how to avoid each one before your next renewal arrives. Now let's look at what has actually changed. One of the biggest misunderstandings is that the federal government has passed a nationwide law forcing every driver over 70 to take the same tests. That simply isn't true. There is no single federal law that automatically revokes your license because of your age. Instead, each state controls its own licensing process. What has changed is the direction many states are moving. Over the past several years, state DMVs have gradually adopted stricter renewal procedures for older drivers. Some now require in-person renewals after a certain age. Others have added mandatory vision screenings. Several have shortened license renewal periods, and a growing number are requiring additional medical evaluations under certain circumstances. The result is that millions of seniors are facing a completely different renewal process than they experienced just a few years ago. According to the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, many states now require additional vision testing for older drivers. Others restrict or completely eliminate online renewal after a certain age. Several states also require healthcare professionals to report specific medical conditions that could affect driving ability. Every year, more states update their policies, not because older Americans are suddenly unsafe drivers, but because the number of senior drivers continues to grow rapidly. Today, more than 50 million licensed drivers in America are over the age of 65. That number has increased dramatically over the past 2 decades and is expected to keep rising. As a result, states are paying closer attention to how license renewals are handled for older adults. This brings us to the first major trap. Trap number 1, online renewal. May no longer be available for years, renewing a driver's license online became routine. No appointments, no waiting rooms, no long lines. Many people simply logged in, answered a few questions, paid the renewal fee, and received a new license in the mail. But once you reach a certain age, that convenience may disappear. Depending on your state, the DMV may now require you to appear in person. Many drivers don't discover this until they try renewing online, and by then, valuable time may already have been lost. States have different age thresholds. California generally requires in-person renewal beginning at age 70. Florida introduces additional requirements beginning around age 80. Illinois gradually increases renewal requirements as drivers get older, with some drivers eventually renewing every year. North Carolina shortens renewal periods after age 66. Texas also increases in-person screening requirements for older drivers. The important point isn't memorizing every state's rules. The important point is understanding that your state's requirements may have changed since your last renewal. Never assume the process will be identical simply because it was easy the last time. Check before your renewal date arrives. Now, let's move to the second trap. Trap number 2, shorter renewal cycles. Most drivers become accustomed to renewing their licenses every 8 years, or even every 10 years in some states. After decades of following the same schedule, it's easy to stop thinking about expiration dates altogether. That's exactly where problems begin. In many states, drivers over a certain age no longer receive the standard renewal period. Instead of 8 years, your license might now be valid for only 5, 3, 2, or even 1 year, depending on your age and where you live. That creates a problem most people never anticipate. Life gets busy. You travel. You move. You spend time caring for a spouse. You recover from surgery. Before you know it, the renewal notice arrives. Or perhaps it never reaches you at all. Many DMV reminder letters are mailed only a few months before expiration. If you've recently changed addresses, if the notice is misplaced, Or if you're away from home, it's surprisingly easy to miss that deadline. And once your license expires, the consequences begin immediately. Driving with an expired license can result in fines. Your insurance company may question coverage after an accident, and in some situations, your vehicle could even be impounded. The safest approach is simple. Don't rely on a reminder letter. Don't rely on memory. Look at your driver's license today. Write the expiration date on your calendar. Set a reminder on your phone several months in advance. Tell a family member. Treat that renewal date the same way you'd treat an important medical appointment, because waiting until the final week may no longer leave enough time. Now let's talk about the third trap, and this is the one that surprises people the most. Trap number 3, medical reporting requirements. Very few drivers realize that in some states, physicians have a legal obligation to report certain medical conditions to the DMV. This isn't true everywhere, but where these laws exist, they carry real consequences. Conditions such as certain forms of dementia, significant vision loss, seizures, or other medical issues that could seriously affect driving may trigger mandatory reporting requirements. Once a report is submitted, the DMV may begin reviewing your driving privileges. That doesn't automatically mean you'll lose your license, but it does begin a formal process that may include medical reviews, additional testing, or driving evaluations. Many people never see it coming. They visit their physician expecting a routine appointment. They answer a few medical questions. Then weeks later, they receive a letter from the DMV saying their license is under review. It's stressful, it's confusing, and for many families, it's the first time they've ever heard these rules exist. The key isn't avoiding medical care. The key is understanding your state's reporting laws before you're caught by surprise. Ask questions, know your rights, understand the process, because being informed gives you far more options than finding out after the paperwork has already been filed. In the next section, I'll show you exactly what to do if your license is approaching renewal, if your doctor raises concerns about your driving, or if you receive a letter from the DMV asking for additional information. So, what should you do to avoid problems before your next renewal? First, check your driver's license today. Don't rely on memory. Take it out of your wallet and look at the expiration date. If it expires within the next 6 months, begin preparing now instead of waiting for a reminder letter. Next, visit your state's official DMV website. Search for Senior Driver Renewal and answer 4 questions. Can you still renew online? Will you need to appear in person? Is a vision test required? How long will your new license remain valid? Every state is different, so never assume last time's process still applies. Before your appointment, gather everything you'll need. Bring your current license, proof of identity, proof of address, and any medical documents your state requires. If your state requires a vision screening, schedule an eye exam before visiting the DMV. Updating your prescription beforehand could save you an unnecessary delay. If you live in a state where physicians must report certain medical conditions, ask your doctor one simple question. Are there any conditions you're legally required to report to the DMV? Knowing the answer ahead of time allows you to understand the process before surprises arise. Finally, if you ever receive a letter from the DMV, don't ignore it. Read it carefully. Respond before the deadline. Most review notices are not automatic license suspensions, they're requests for additional information. The faster you respond, the more options you'll usually have. In the final section, let's review the simple habits that can help you stay legally licensed and safely on the road for years to come. Let's finish with the most important takeaway. If you're over 70, staying licensed isn't just about passing a vision test. It's about staying organized. Know your renewal date. Keep your DMV paperwork together, schedule appointments early, and check your state's renewal requirements before every renewal, not after. If restrictions are ever proposed, don't assume your driving days are over. Many states offer restricted licenses that allow daytime driving, local travel, or other reasonable accommodations that help seniors remain independent. Remember, receiving a medical diagnosis doesn't automatically mean losing your license. Many conditions can be treated, monitored, or managed successfully. Working with your doctor early often creates more options than waiting until the DMV becomes involved. Driving represents far more than transportation. For many older Americans, it's independence. It's the ability to buy groceries, attend medical appointments, visit family, and remain active in the community. That's why staying informed matters. Before you leave today, do 3 simple things. Check your driver's license expiration date. Visit your state's official DMV website. Review the renewal rules for drivers your age. If you have family members over 70, share this information with them. A few minutes of preparation today could prevent major problems later. I'm Daniel Carter. Thank you for watching. Stay informed, stay prepared, and above all, drive safely. Disclaimer. This video is provided for educational and informational purposes only. It should not be considered financial, legal, or tax advice. Eligibility requirements for tax exemptions, Medicare programs, utility assistance, and banking products vary by state and financial institution. Always verify current rules with the appropriate government agency, financial institution, or a qualified professional before making financial decisions.